I think it's still a little bit frowned upon to be vegan. It's not.
Yeah, it's still a bit, oh, you need to be careful. And, oh, did your doctor know?
Yeah.
And, what about, as we just said when we were just talking before we started recording, is, we run plant-based retreats, and actually your book, Becoming Vegan, is just perfect for our guests, because we don't really have, we have a few, but mainly it's people that are just a bit interested in being a bit more plant-based. And that's the
Yeah.
number one. They are still a little bit, what about the protein? What about the iron? And
Hmm.
because it's such a big question, I'd love to ask you, especially about the iron, because I noticed when we've been plant-based for 10 years now, but my iron levels did go lower, and I had to work a bit harder at sort of maintaining, good blood work with my iron. And I didn't want to take iron supplements. I wanted obviously to get it from the food. Tell us a bit about the iron and the protein, and how we can get it being plant-based.
Oh, okay, well, our hemoglobin is made with iron as a central molecule. So that's one of the things they measure. They also measure serum ferritin, and that's the iron that's sitting on the shelf waiting in case we need it. And that is a pro-oxidant. So what they found more recently is that high ferritin levels can be linked with a higher risk of type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease and some cancers. So whereas we thought we needed high hemoglobin, which is the working iron, which we definitely do need, and high serum ferritin, which you've got to have high hemoglobin, but your ferritin doesn't need to be high. We don't want it really, really rock bottom, but if it's at the low end of normal, it's fine. Now, I find that most vegetarians are kind of low in ferritin, and they're perfectly healthy. They're able to, I did a kind of mini triathlon last year. Many of my clients have low serum ferritin but high hemoglobin, and they're fine. So part of it is our understanding of the lab results, which most physicians don't know that well. So
And what
it
about
could be that,
I get really
yeah.
confused about the iron. As you say, it is a bit confusing. What about the folate levels? Is that linked to the iron?
No, that's another nutrient that we need. We need a lot of nutrients, but
Yeah.
you know where the word folate is from?
No.
What does it make you think of? Foliage.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
kind of plants do you think it's in? Like it was
Cruciferous.
first all the greens, the
Yeah.
leafies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that one you can actually get a fair amount.
Yeah.
Now we've had to work these things out very carefully. So in our books we have menus or showing people how to get even the higher levels of folate that you need during pregnancy. But I think it is a good idea in pregnancy to have folate as a supplement. You don't want that one to drop low, because most people aren't eating like huge amounts of greens and beans and the different things that give the folate. But you can easily meet the regular recommended, but the ones for pregnancy, I think a supplement is advisable.
That's quite interesting, because I can't remember, it's been a while now since I looked at my bloods, but my folate was actually quite high, but my ferritin was quite low. So anyways, maybe I'm having lots of greens, so that's good.
Yeah, it's good. It's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and people also, when they go to a naturopath, they're often recommended to have magnesium.
Yeah.
Every naturopath sells magnesium to their people, and yet that is the central molecule in chromium, in chlorophyll.
Right. In the
So it's in
greens.
everything green too.
Yeah.
And so those of us that are eating, for example, I have a kale smoothie each morning with some orange juice or oranges and bananas and hemp seeds for some added protein and omega-3s. And I have salads, at least half my plate of salad at lunch and supper. So we get lots of those
Yeah.
leafies.
Yeah.
And I taught at a raw chef school for a few years before COVID, and people would practically have a wheelbarrow full of salad for lunch. They have
Yeah. Yeah.
huge salads, really big.
And so,
So
well,
some people are eating that
you
way.
might be able to help me, because I was having an argument with someone on TikTok. Not an
Uh-huh.
argument, but I was
Yeah.
demonstrating a smoothie that I have for breakfast on
Yeah.
TikTok, and I was showing how you could get 10 different fruits and veg in one smoothie. So I made this video and I put it up, and you know what social media is like. I was getting backlash. So someone was commenting saying, you will overeat by eating a smoothie. When you blend foods, you don't get the fiber.
Too many calories in
Too
one
many
smoothie.
calories in one smoothie. What would you say? Help me with my argument. What do I say back to this person?
Well, we actually do want fiber. It's cleaning out our GI tract. And what we find is that vegans can have at least as much fiber as the recommended, which most people don't get, and even up to twice as much. Well, our ancestors actually got close to 4 times as much as the current recommended intakes. And so they ate a lot of fiber. Even people that we think of as paleo, and the modern paleo is eat a lot of meat, right?
Mm.
But the real paleos ate so much plant food that they had very, very high fiber intakes. Fiber is a good thing to have, and it keeps us healthy. And you don't really need to worry about it getting to extremely high levels. What was the other thing that you were
So she said
focusing on?
that by blending it,
By blending.
you take away the fiber.
We said it's not, because you're blending it, the fiber's there. Is that
No,
right?
what you do is break the cells so some digestion starts. So some people who have problematic digestive situations, I've been to the Ann Wigmore Institute in Rincon, Puerto Rico, and they were dealing with people who had severe digestive issues. And so when you have a smoothie, it can actually start the digestive process because the cells are broken and the plant cells have enzymes in them to start the digestion. So that can be a help for people to digest. It doesn't digest the fiber, but it starts some of the starches digesting.
Oh, good. We can
Okay,
we can,
right.
we can fight,
Yes.
we can fight back.
In a very nice and loving, kind
But
way.
one of the things is that nutrition is a relatively new science. The first vitamin was discovered at the start of World War I, 1914. And the first vitamin was identified at that point. Well, they knew there was A and B. B turned out to be a complex a bit later. But it's a new science. We're finding things out all the time. That's why our books have been so interesting to do. And I think for our Becoming Raw book, we had 1,200 references. And in our plant-powered protein, there's a plant-powered protein website. You can see all the references, for each chapter, huge numbers. And we're just learning things. Okay, what about vitamin D? What about ferritin? These are new, and all of the health professionals aren't even up on the latest, because you got to be really running fast to keep up. Yeah.
So what do you think about taking supplements? Do you advise supplements?
Yes, definitely B12. And in my latitude, which is 49 degrees north, fairly similar to yours. I think yours is a little bit even more northern than that. So we definitely need vitamin D in the winter.
Yeah.
And we're also doing these kind of conflicting things. We're wearing sunscreen. We're trying to stay out of the sun. We're covering up a bit so that we don't get skin cancer. And yet we have this idea that vitamin D comes from sunlight on the skin. So most people are, getting into their car, driving from their carport into a store parking lot or where they work. Like, they're not exposed to the sun very much. So we can't expect vitamin D to come from the sun. And especially in the winter months, from October to the spring to April. So we definitely need vitamin D, and we need B12.
Do you think we should, because again, this is conflicting, and I think it was to Tony Riddle that we had on this podcast, and other kind of, wellness guides and gurus, and they're really saying that sun on the skin, obviously not burning, but sun on the skin is actually very, very good for you.
But not in the peak hours, but say like from,
early morning, maybe late evening, to go without sun protection. But then you get all the, the fear about skin cancer. Where do you sit on that?
Well, I tend to not use sunscreen.
Yeah.
I just don't. And yeah. And so my skin has little brown spots on it here and there,
Yeah.
and so from a dermatological point of view, or beauty point of view, some people wouldn't want that, and I do take vitamin D, but I actually tracked vitamin D a lot. I went with a lifestyle clinic here that was a group of vegan doctors, and tracked my vitamin D. And I found that when I wasn't taking it, I'd maybe take it once a week or something like that, my vitamin D was really low. And it put me at risk of, had osteopenia, at risk of osteoporosis. So now I've boosted my vitamin D, and it took a while to get it to the right level. And I had to pay for vitamin D tests because they weren't covered by the medical system. It was just done for interest, really. But then I found that I had to go up to a high level, up to 8,000 international units at first. And now I'm down to 5,000. So one of the major vitamin D researchers, Dr. Veith at the University of Toronto, that I talked to, he said what is optimal for one person can be toxic for another person. Like, we really vary. So vitamin D is one that we're wondering a lot. There's all kinds of theories and people recommending different things. And to tell you the truth, we really don't know all there is to know about vitamin D. And one of the ways you can really check if you're at the right level is to get a lab test done and see if you're in the optimal range. And so I did that over the course of a year. I had about 3 tests and got myself to just the right range. So that was an interesting one for me. Yeah.
Oh, do you know what? If I had enough money, I'd be testing myself left, right, and center, because I love all that, to see, if you
it's fun, isn't it? Because we're learning these things about ourselves, and you're in your own little experiment. Yeah.